I just saved this AI faceless YouTube channel from dying twice and blew up its views 3 times in a row, and today I'm going to show you how I did it and how I'm making it absolutely impossible for my channel to suffer another crash in views in the future. For some context here, I started this channel to prove a point that low-budget YouTube channels made with AI can produce content people actually enjoy watching and not just be branded as AI slop, which after looking at all of these comments, I think we can say I succeeded in doing. I also proved that with fully outsourced production on a budget of literally $40 a video, or $0 if you're making the videos yourself, can result in almost $500 a day in revenue. And when I tell you the reason why my channel crashed for the second time, you genuinely just won't believe me, because it was just pure insanity. But anyway, here's what happened the first time around when my channel died and how I had to revive it. So we were off to a flying start with History on Toast, hitting 25k views a day in just under a week of launch, with the first video we posted getting over 100k views. Nice. This was a result of us validating audience demand and understanding our IVP immediately. Validating audience demand was pretty easy because there's actually an American version of this niche already with over 2 years of history, so all we had to do was work out the size of the UK audience compared to the US's, and then we would know if it was profitable and worthwhile doing. Understanding our IVP was also easy, because I had the unfair advantage of being British myself and having grown up around our exact ideal viewer profile: nostalgic, opinionated, working class British people over the age of 60. So understanding that IVP informed our thumbnail strategy, which was very muted and modest compared to the American version of the niche, which was more loud and proud. It also helped me train our AI scripting tool to use a 1960s British dialect and a northern working class British accent, which would resonate well with our viewers.
If your fridge is looking a bit bare and pension day is still a couple of sleeps away.
If you don't have the same organic knowledge of your video's potential IVP, the best way you can actually learn about that is to start consuming content made by people in that IVP on YouTube. In my case, that would mean watching videos created by old working class British people and analysing their transcripts to understand their language and reviewing comments to see how people interacted and engaged with each other. Whilst you're doing that analysis before you actually launch your channel, it's a good idea to do a quick channel warm for a few days before you start posting to build up some trust with YouTube. What happened next to my channel was very predictable. I had set an arbitrary $40 budget per video to prove a point to you guys, which partially backfired because the writer and editor that I got at that price were extremely unreliable and inconsistent, so I actually ended up going through 3 different sets of writers and editors at that price point, all within the first 6 weeks, until I found 2 that were, I don't want to say good, because that's too generous. Left it would be more accurate. And during that time of turbulence, we were also experimenting with different topics. So instead of just covering food, we wanted to span everything a person could get nostalgic about in British culture. Because if we could talk about any topic and get loads of views, our channel would have really good longevity. But unfortunately, due to our crappy writing, that's not exactly what happened, and our experiments talking about football and British interior design failed miserably. But later on, we figured out a brilliant new method of expanding into new topic areas and going crazy viral. But before I tell you about that, the really choppy production during July and August caused this ugly view chart because with only 4 videos in July and 7 or 8 in August, and a lot of editing and writing style variations, we gave the audience massive whiplash. It was only at the end of August and early September, when we got into a really steady posting schedule and hitting our volume of 5 videos per week, that we were able to again see some explosive growth, up to 50,000 views a day and a September peak of $489 a day in revenue. Nice. But there was more to it than just posting more videos. Because our writing wasn't very creative at this point in time, we narrowed the topic down to just food recipes, which helped us get a lot of really targeted views because YouTube got a really clear message of what our videos were about and who they're for. So we chose food because everybody eats, so it was reasonable to assume the audience for it would be quite large, even with a very specific focus on British food in the mid-20th century. We changed our hook structure as well from generic waffle to introducing an open loop in every video.
We all remember the Minis, Cortinas and Capris that once ruled Britain's roads, but it's the forgotten little oddities and underdogs of the 1950s through 70s that, when seen again, are sure to spark memories you didn't know you still had. And many of these old English cars you might be hearing about for the first time. If you've ever taken a bite of Cadbury and thought, hang on, this isn't the chocolate I grew up with, you're not alone. There's a reason for it, and it's quite a story. So make yourself a cuppa and let unwrap what really happened.
This is when you allude to something but don't complete your chain of thought, leaving the viewer on the edge of their seat, waiting for you to answer that later in the video or complete that chain of thought. For any gamers watching this video, there's a Rust YouTuber called Willjum who does open loops repeatedly in all of his videos, so go check him out for a really good example on how to do that. Anyway, at this point, my team was feeling pretty good with themselves. We had a stupidly high profit margin channel with fast production, and we couldn't be stopped. Until another British YouTuber filed a copyright strike on one of my most popular videos, which had over 100,000 views. He filed the strike on the basis that he had used one screenshot freeze frame from his video of him cooking something. Yes, seriously, I got a copyright strike for a single freeze frame. Like, just what a moody old bastard. Anyway, it turns out my editors had used 1 or 2 screenshots of his videos in 9 other videos on my channel. And to make matters worse, several of those were top performing videos on my channel. Now, this wasn't ideal, but it certainly wasn't a copyright violation by any means. But given Grandpa was grumpy over one screenshot, I was pretty sure that it was only a matter of time until he filed copyright claims against loads of other videos as well. Or worse, he had already filed those copyright claims, and at any moment I'd be slapped with multiple copyright strikes. Now, this scared the crap out of me because YouTube has a 3 strikes and you're out policy. Not just channel termination, but a full-on YouTube ban for life. This would ruin my entire business of growing YouTube channels and coaching other creators on how to grow YouTube channels, so I was not willing to take any risks here. I quickly deleted all of those videos, which unfortunately included 8 of my 10 most popular videos. You see, the problem here is not that those videos no longer get views, the problem is the YouTube algorithm clings to the core viral videos on your channel as major points of context for who to recommend your videos to and how aggressively to do so. So I call these videos your channel's algo fuel. With that fuel removed from the car no longer runs, aka YouTube stopped promoting all of my other videos, which as you can see resulted in this massive view crash and continued underperformance on my channel. Now, I don't personally actively monitor any of the small faceless channels that I own anymore because it's really just not worth my time. So I only make them to show you guys what's possible, and then I just kind of let a production team handle it by themselves. So the production team that I had working on this kept churning out videos 5 days a week, just like they had done before the copyright disaster. But the thing is, that's simply not good enough when an event like this happens to your channel. If you experience a major drop in viewership suddenly that appears to sustain over multiple weeks, you have to make fundamental changes to correct it. YouTube is not going to magically bless you with high views again. So I sat down with my producer on Discord to explain to him that he needed to experiment with new packaging, with new angles for our videos. First, we tried this video about Greg's, a modest pivot away from our usual videos about old recipes. Now, viewers were clearly interested in this video because we actually ended up getting 3 times as many views as our recent videos did, thanks to slightly higher average view duration. But it wasn't enough, probably because the thumbnail was a bit vague. You see, nobody actually recognized the guy in the thumbnail, and the background of this Greg's store looked a little bit off. It wasn't symbolizing and screaming Greg's the way that I'd want it to on a thumbnail. So I actually hadn't seen that Greg's video until I started writing the script for this video that you're watching right now. So whilst I was writing the script, I told my thumbnail designer to change it to be more like this, an object-focused thumbnail which represents Greg's in a way that everyone is familiar with. But since the Greg's video had already flopped, we needed to test this on a new video. So we completely threw away the nostalgic, vintage, scenic, faded look of our old thumbnails and switched to a bright, object-oriented thumbnail which had tension. And by object-oriented, I mean switching from generic images of a street or a kitchen where there's loads of objects, which means there's no core focus, to thumbnails which minimize the number of objects on screen, making it easier for the viewer to focus on. And the idea of tension was to create a sense of opposition in the viewer when they saw the title and the thumbnail. So Cadbury's was a beloved brand in Britain for decades, and for many it still is, but over time views have changed and older generations tend to prefer what they had when they were younger. So I wanted to create tension around that by pitting the 1960s Cadbury's against the 2025 Cadbury's, and to drive people to leave comments on the video. I also directed the tension specifically towards the taste of Cadbury's chocolate. This packaging change had 2 huge impacts. Firstly, our initial CTR was higher than on previous videos, which gave us more views in the first few minutes after posting the video. And then we had a really high view to comment velocity ratio, which means each hour our rate of growth of comments was actually faster than the rate of growth of views. So this velocity ratio is the main signal to YouTube of viewer engagement and video interest, leading YouTube to give us more impressions than usual, and this video getting over 100,000 views in about a week, which was literally 75 times more than the average video from the previous 4 weeks. And that's cool and all, but it's only one video, and one video gaining popularity isn't actually enough to trigger much growth on your existing content library. As you can see here, the only other video that got any residual view uplift was this other video specifically about chocolate. At this point, it's time to double down. We've established a better packaging framework for videos, and we know how to create tension in our audience, which drives users to comment, so now we just need to adapt our upcoming videos to take on those new principles. So we started to ideate around the principle of videos that will create tension within our ideal viewer profile, which was British citizens over the age of 55. We started with ideas really close to the Cadbury's video, asking ourselves, well, what other food brands could we cover? Then we branched out to say, well, what about retail chains or restaurants? Or could we push this even further out and move towards current political themes which were connected to British culture? I mean, after all, our IVP is very opinionated and very political, so there's emotional triggers that we could definitely pull on there and isolate in our packaging for future videos. For example, something like how the Labour Party ruined the UK food market. You see, what I'm doing here is bridging the gap between my audience's topics by combining topics I currently cover, like food, with topics and themes I'd like to extend into, like politics. This acts as a soft launch to see if my audience will accept me making different videos to what I normally do. If they do, then I can slowly push further and further away from my original topics, and as I do so, capture more viewers from different areas of YouTube. But this will only work if I manage to preserve that audience tension that I've created with my new packaging. These are all ideas which we're experimenting with currently and due to post videos on in the next few weeks to see if we can actually expand on these themes and insulate ourselves from another view crash. If we can expand the range of themes we have covered successfully, our channel will have more longevity to it as viewers won't get tired of the content as easily. Then we can get more serious about producing this content at a higher quality level with more thoughtful writing and more engaging editing, and we can reduce the number of videos we post weekly, which is now 5, down to say 2 or 3, which again helps slow down viewer fatigue, meaning our channel's useful life, i.e. how long it's profitable for and worthwhile spending time on, will last longer. And I'm actually documenting these YouTube strategy experiments in real time over in my private YouTube growth community, where you'll find a massive video course on growing YouTube channels, which I add new videos to every month, and anyone who joins my group and gets monetized within 60 days will get a full refund of their membership costs. Seriously, if you actually put in the work and grow your channel, it's totally free because you've earned it. So good luck, I guess.